Thanks very much, Stephen. This has been a fantastic day. I really enjoyed it. In 1944, a committee made recommendations in the UK that were proved to be a watershed in medical education in the UK. And one of their more radical recommendations was that women should be admitted to the London medical schools. In the National Archives in London is a file devoted entirely to this single recommendation. And in that file is a letter, which I've held in my hand, from the then president of the Royal College of Surgeons of England, a very distinguished man who was highly respected for his surgical skills. And in 3 pages of bombastic pomposity, he outlines why this is a truly stupid idea, not least because they have standards to maintain. But in that same file is a shed load of letters from parents to their local member of parliament, roughly paraphrasing, saying, my bright, high-achieving daughter has been unable to get into medical school, and the rugby-playing Dumbo down the road has. What are you, MP, going to do about it? For a government elected by the people, it's a no-brainer. And what that very distinguished surgeon had failed to do all those years ago, back in 1944, was to recognize that the world around him had changed and that public expectations had changed in a way that he found difficult to recognize. And that letter, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading actually, but that letter often pops back into my head when I hear discussions like some of the discussions we've had today. It's not for me to say, it's not for me to fly in from the UK and tell you what to do in Australia or New Zealand or Canada. Of course it's not. But I think, sorry? But I think that looking back over the history of medical education, history of the medical profession in the UK over the last 100, 150 years, the time when the profession has been at its most unhappy or has felt most threatened has been when it's allowed itself to get out of touch, or at least out of step, with the changing world around it. And then it finds itself having things done to it, and it doesn't like that. We don't like that. And we find ourselves reacting to things that we don't really understand, and we find ourselves trying to make plans in an out-of-control situation. I think for all of us who are involved in different ways in medicine and in leadership in medicine, we've got a challenge. The challenge of leadership is to identify those values about the medical profession which are absolutely core. They go to the very heart of what a doctor is. And we must preserve those values at all costs. But also we've got to distinguish those values from other things that we do that are simply a function of the age in which we or our predecessors lived, and which maybe should be put to one side. I think with regard to revalidation or recertification or whatever you want to call it, I think the questions that I would ask you to contemplate as you leave today is what can you do as an individual doctor, or what can you do as a college that will ensure that good doctors stay good and get better, and could you do more? But also, what can you do as an individual doctor, and what can you do as a college that will proactively protect the public from doctors who are underperforming, from doctors who we would not want to be treated by ourselves? And if you feel that it is not your role to identify or to highlight or express a concern about a doctor who appears to be poorly performing, then you should be clear about whose role it is. Because somebody, some organization will fill that vacuum. And if you are aware, either as an individual or as an organization, about a poorly performing doctor, just imagine what might happen if that doctor harmed somebody and it is known that you knew. Just imagine the media frenzy that would ensue, which is the frenzy we went through in the UK, and found ourselves reacting and reacting and reacting to events over which we had no control. it is surely better to recognize that the world around us is always changing and to provide the leadership that enables the medical profession to stay in control of its destiny rather than to play catch-up to something that you're not able to control. So those are just my general high-level comments. It's been a great day. I think we've heard some fantastic information about what is going on around the 3 countries involved here. I've been stimulated by it, and I would like to thank you very much for asking me to come. Thank you very much indeed.